Howdy everyone, this is Grakef. New series for you, Season 3 here for KSP RP 1. This is taken from a Twitch stream, so pay no attention to the talking head. We're not going to be in sync. But yeah, we're getting started here on our season here, and just going through spending the points, talking about retirement, how all that works in RP1. And if you don't know, basically they've set up in the 1.10, making it easier if you want to start at other places for your initial. If you don't want to start at Cape Canaveral, you need to select the other sites, and then if you're doing any of the as far as the astronauts and stuff. So here we're going through on missions. You're going to want the first launch mission, and then I talk about some of the other stuff there. And so we're going to work on first launch. We're going to work on getting our first aircraft out and a couple of other items. Alright, here we are in the VAB. Going to start off by building a WAC Corporal. It's actually going to be more Aero B WAC Corporal. It's based on a 3.8 meter size as opposed to the 3 meter size. But talking about why I'm choosing 3.8, and that's mainly because I want to send out the biological sample on this first mission and make sure I capture it. I'm playing with Kerbalism on this stream, and so I'm really going to be focusing on making sure that I get science more than anything. But yeah, pretty straightforward. Got the biological sample, got us a nose cone there, got the avionics, though it doesn't do a whole lot. What I'm trying here is this particular tank system supports, you can set up a preset, which is really awesome. So for like 3.8, all you have to do is select 3.8 and it matches all your other parts. Problem is that this particular tank system doesn't do the like boat tails and cones and stuff like that. So I noticed that that's the difference, that we got two tank systems here, procedural and the other style construction. So I have to do those 3.8 still by hand. It's not the end of the world. So I go ahead and stack two 3.8 tanks, 1 meter long. And what I want to do here, because the Aero B that's in this particular pack, you can get ones that are 3.8, but this one is 3.0. And so by adding that boat tail and making it a full meter long, you notice how much better it is in the transonic. And if you don't have a boat tail, that's astronomically bad. So you want to make sure you put on a boat tail no matter what you're doing. And then you can work from there. So I flip some parts around here, just trying to match up to the engine size now. So we're working with a 45-second burn time with this particular engine, but we'll get more upgrades. So I'm going to go ahead and tool my 3.8s at 1 meter long, and also make sure you turn on all your science in the VAB. Always turn on the science. Alright, to fins now. Joys of working with the procedural fins. They default to quite a big size there. You can change that if you'd like. So just making some adjustments here. I feel like these fins, for whatever reason, end up much larger than the ones I've designed in the past. I don't know why, but they are. So there they are. A little tweaking, so on and so forth here, trying to get them to be smaller. I want them a little bit down tilted there, and there we go. That's our rocket. So one thing I forgot to do is I forgot to color it. Orange is my favorite color here, so we're going to go ahead and color those orange, and then we'll have a functioning WAC Corporal rocket. So watch here a little bit while I play around with the color sliders and get everything set up, and then we'll be ready for the next build. All right, here we are in this space plane hangar. We're going to build a Cessna style airplane to start off with. No matter what you do, you kind of are forced to build airplanes now. It's not the freebie it used to be as well, because there is only a single build queue, but you want to build those airplanes, and it makes a lot more sense in the whole scheme of a space program, because a lot of the early astronauts were pilots, and so it would make sense that they have that experience, whether Soviet or Russian. So we just build a little Cessna airplane here, and because we've built these fins already and paid for that, this ends up being a fairly inexpensive airplane as well to build. So it really is worth it to build one of these, do a few of the first flight missions, especially for the altitudes and duration, and you get some relatively free money. So a little bit of grind there, but it's definitely worth it. So I've got most of the plane built out here, working on the tail section here and getting that all balanced and put in, and then we'll get on to control surfaces. It ends up looking pretty much like a Cessna. It's a pretty good plane, I feel. Let me know in the comments if there's some changes that you'd like to see as far as the realness, if you want me to go more towards real or more towards function. So all right, here we go. Control surfaces. Just kind of eyeballed this based upon the pictures that I've seen. I do try to make them, actually, because we got a little bit of a taper there. I try to get the taper in as well, and yeah, once we get done with the control surfaces, then I end up putting on some runners. There is an issue with this particular design build, and just to point that out, this is a little bit different than KSP. I always have difficulty in building planes, no matter whether it's KSP or Real Progression 1. But in KSP, I was always taught that you need to have the mass behind the lift. That's not the case with actual real planes. You want to make sure that your mass is in front of the lift, just slightly. So here in just a little bit, we're going to work on balancing that. So right, here we are. Notice how much farther back the mass is from the lift. I was having a lot of problems with flying this particular vehicle, and I was trying to make it work in KSP. One of my streamers, Jesse Spaceman, says no, it needs to be in front of the lift. And so that was the problem I was running into, and I was trying to use lead ballast to get it behind and get it balanced. And he's like, no, you're heading the wrong way. Okay, well, what I end up doing then is getting rid of that lead ballast, and I'm playing around with the wings here, and you'll see that in the trying to move the lift back. That doesn't work very well. I try and move the mass forward because there's a lot of gas in that wing, and that just ends up moving the lift as well. So we try playing with the tail section here, rotate that. Oh, okay, well, that moves it forward, that moves it forward. So it keeps moving the lift forward. When all else fails, stop and go back to those real designs. And there we go. It wasn't great, but this ended up being the flying combination. So once I put the wing where it was supposed to be, it was all good. So here we go. This is the maiden flight of this particular vessel. It's just going to be an out and back, and that's all you really do. If you just want to hop on the runway and then land, you can do that. All you have to do is recover a vessel that is flown. So you just have to get that flight. I wanted to go out and back, so we're going to go ahead and launch here, and I'm just checking everything, making sure we're transmitting science, and because that is really important. If you're playing with Kerbalism, always be transmitting science. So there we go. We got some experiments. I think I make a joke about the fact that it's 0.2 bytes per second. That's pretty ridiculously slow internet connection, but radio connection. But hey, it's the 50s, so I'm sure they were really happy for every little bit of data they could get. So I have always, all of my planes so far have been fighting getting down the runway straight. I need to figure out a good way to do this. So if you know a great way to do this, let me know in the comments, because like I say, I'm continually fighting the runway, getting it to go straight. And get a little bit of lift here, and it wants to tilt to the left and then right, and then, oh, I thought it was a goner, but nope. It digs in there, and we have liftoff. This particular design as well, I'm not sure what I've got wrong, but it loves to pull up hard on takeoff, so that's also a problem that needs to be designed out. But once we get up in the air, get some airspeed, it flies really stable. SAS does help with that as well, and I'll use MechJeb for this flight. So yeah, we're just going to take it out over the sea and go a little ways, make sure everything flies, get up to about 1,000 meters, and then come on back. Alright, here we come in on final approach, coming in for a landing. I'm completely shocked at how smooth the landings are in RP1. I've generally have not had these smooth of landings. So either I'm getting better at Kerbal Space Program, or flying is just that much easier in RP1. And in the difference between the takeoffs, the landings are really super smooth down the runway. It tracks really well, and here we go. There, touchdown, and onto the brakes. And it has worked really well. I wish my takeoffs were as smooth as these landings. Alright, here we are, our mission report. This is why you fly this particular mission. You get a nice little chunk of science from Kerbalism, but not only that, you get a crew update here, which allows you to extend out those retirement dates. If you're going to be using your initial 4 astronauts for doing crewed missions in space, you're going to want to make sure you do that. And so we end up with 7 science, and we get a functioning plane back, basically. I kind of goofed and clicked the wrong button, but if you recover to the space hangar, then everything works out. And you also get XP for your astronauts. Alright, here's our WAC Corporal on the launch pad. So we're going to just take off. This is going to be our first launch for that contract. And really all you need to do is hit 50 meters per second, 1,000 feet. 1,000 meters, sorry. So this is really a very simple first one. Again, always make sure if you're playing with Kerbalism, you're always getting science. Kerbalism does science over time, which makes a lot more sense realistically, but yeah, it's, if you can follow this guide, there's a lot of guides available there, but your first launch doesn't need to be all that intense, and you get quite a bit of money from it. So feel free to build whatever you want to build there. It doesn't have to necessarily be modeled after an existing rocket. Yeah, here we go. It's a pretty good launch. I think I'm going to go up to about 27 kilometers, so very successful. More than we needed to reach that 50 meters per second, 1,000 meters. Is one downside, and there it is. Lucky for you, you don't have to watch this entire flight. This is the only one we're going to have uncut probably for this series. But when I go up to 4x time acceleration, parts want to fly off because of the spin. And that unfortunately is going to cause some issues, especially for these unmanned rockets. So there we go. We have separation at 27 or so kilometers. And now I just need to get back down to around 2,000, and then I can deploy those chutes. Even if you're not using chutes, don't use range safety on these first ones. You want to gather as much science as possible, and especially if you're using Kerbalism. So stick with the flight the entire time up and down. And as you see, I would have missed out on that science because I didn't stick with it long enough if I'd used range safety at the top of the Apple apps. In later missions, it might be worth it for you, depending on how you want to do your contracts. But that's the end of the video, so remember, love is love, stay safe, and this is Grakef saying goodbye.